Hey guys, so remember that video I made on Metroid 1 that praised Metroid 1 on how great and boundary pushing that game was? Well, I've played through it 3 times. Thanks to the YouTuber Neril, I was originally going to play through the game twice, but he mentions a HD edition which fixes up some of the game's major faults. I'll talk about that remake after I talk about the original game. So I just want to tell you that this game, at best, is a 3 out of 10. I really don't understand how the game is even like. The beginning of the game is actually good. You have the atmosphere, or at least as best as you could from an NES. You expect it to be some kind of platformer where you go from left to right, but instead you're firstly guided to the roll ball power-up. Past this part is where the game goes into just figure it out yourself mode. This game expects you to navigate this massive map without any map. That's a big problem throughout the entire game. The hallways and vertical corridors you navigate all look practically identical. You're constantly wondering whether you've been in this room or not. When you figure out you have, you just backtrack and find another room. But it turns out to be just the same. Room layouts being duplicated like this makes the game seem like it's making you deliberately get lost without enough guidance on how they should push you towards the spot. Now, I want you to answer a simple question. Have you ever enjoyed grinding for XP in games because you weren't a high enough level to beat a boss? Now imagine it's Metroid 1 and the XP is your health. You are constantly losing health in this game. Sure, you have E-tanks which gives you full health and another 99 hits. This power-up feels like too much and too little at the same time. How? Let me explain. Every enemy in this game takes off around 5 or more hits off you, depending on where you are. When you get hit, your energy doesn't slowly roll down, you just get pinged to that new health amount, and you get flung backwards. You barely have enough invincibility frames, or iframes, until you're hit again. And don't even get me started on the lava. The lava feels like a roll of the dice. Maybe you'll get lucky and jump out of the lava first try when you mash the jump button. Or maybe you'll get trapped underneath a tile while you're in the lava and the game ends up draining either a lot of your health or all of it because you couldn't escape this death trap. Now it might seem like the game makes up for the damage incurred by adding more health power-ups, right? Sure, killing an enemy might give you some health, only sometimes though, and this is where the main issue of Metroid 1 persists. When you die, you're left with 30 energy, no energy tanks, and now you have to build up your health again. The energy tanks don't respawn or have new properties to counterbalance this difficulty spike. Your only option is to grind enemies until they give you health. This can take up to 5 minutes or even 30 minutes, or even up to an hour, or even up to 2 hours, depending on how much you want to refill your health. If you're just a regular player, obviously you'd want to refill your health to the maximum amount, but after a while of grinding enemies, they just stop spawning. The only workaround I found consistent is to re-enter that room, but never do this while they're trying to swarm ever. You might take a hit or die when you transition through that door. The ability to shoot in this game is extremely limited. You start off with this stubby dart. What are you going to do with this? You know what you're going to do? You're going to get rid of it as soon as possible. I have some clever advice for you. Never get this plasma wave looking laser, and you'll thank me later. What you want to do here is find the bomb power-up. This allows you to bomb the floor. Find this room and don't be fooled. The lava is fake and has some invisible tiles. Whoever came up with the creation of these invisible tiles, I'd like to have a word with you. I just want to have let's have a, talk, private room, perhaps, where nobody could see you, Anyways, get this ice beam, and now keep it for the rest of the game. If you do some more exploration, you'll find another power-up that increases your shooting range. This new shooting ability freezes your enemies and allows you to bomb them, because if you shoot them again, they'll just thaw and probably kill you. This is basically what you'll be doing 80% of the time in Metroid. Shoot, bomb, shoot, spam bomb. Oh wait, there's so many enemies coming at me that I need some insane accuracy that the game doesn't provide, or I end up getting pushed back. And there's also lava. Great gameplay, not chaotic at all. Maybe you'll even discover that you can freeze enemies off screen if you move the screen by tiny amounts, even though the game doesn't feel like you should be able to do that. The other 20% of the game is either refilling your health because the game doesn't do that for you, finding power-ups by bombing the floor because a maniac at the Metroid team decided this was a good idea, finding red doors that you need missiles to shoot at. Oh, and I haven't talked about this. This is the only part of your HUD that's persistent. However many rockets you had, you keep. It's good design. You still have to grind to get some more. The enemies are randomized to either give you rockets or health, but I find some enemies actually give you rockets more instead of health. Instead of making these enemies drop either rockets or health, why didn't they just make their enemies drop both? The only other thing you'll be doing is fighting bosses. You'll find these two statues that you'll be confused by, along with some sort of bridge. Don't even think about it. It's a death trap unless you have the high jump. You'll want to find these bosses in the game and destroy them. With Ridley, you'll fight him at 5 FPS while he fires sine waves at you. He's probably the easiest boss in the game. Next, you want to fight Kraid. You might think you want to jump over his arrows, but that's probably going to take too long. Instead, just build up your health like a tank, grab around 100 rockets just to be safe. Now just walk into him and spam those rockets until he dies. At least now he won't be a problem. I find it funny is that the bosses in this game are easier than the enemies themselves. The enemies take chunks out of your health, but when you go to fight the bosses, it feels like you accomplish nothing. And when you have to find your way back, you have to go through those enemies again, which you'll probably fail and die trying to do. Now remember when I said you want to keep your ice beam? Well, here's the catch. When you enter the bridge room again, you'll shoot those two pillars that you can see and enter the deathly domain that is Mother Brain's place. Mother Brain's place lab. Scientific laboratory. This is where the Metroids appear. You've probably played this for about 2 weeks and now you're fighting the Metroids. Do you have the ice beam? Good! You can beat them in about 5 seconds unless you get grabbed by them. Or if you're really unlucky, about 2 or 3 of them. They'll come out of nowhere and drain your health. If you have any other type of projectile that isn't ice, you have to go back to get it, which feels completely dumb. The Metroids only die when they're frozen and have been shot at by missiles. You see that orange door? Remember that red door? Well, guess what? Orange door equals 10 missiles. So pay up the bargaining price. The Mother Brain boss fight is designed to be a hard boss fight, but it's all smoke and mirrors. Those rings you encountered as you were fighting this thing, those are only to increase this boss's difficulty, so it feels uncontrollable and unwinnable. The game instead wants you to prioritize what you do at these specific moments. Freeze the rings, shoot Mother Brain, run away from the rings, maybe get launched into the lava because of some pushback. Try again. Also, they take an insane amount of health off you. I don't know what's up with some of these games and getting hurt by bubbles or rings. You would think these would get killed in one shot, but they take 2 ice beam shots. You're bound to get hit by another one. These doors are just for decoration, and by decoration I mean they just want you to shoot them with missiles, and so is that container. Honestly, if you just removed all of the elements except for the boss and the room, you'd have the easiest boss fight in the game, because Mother Brain can't really hurt you. This is just what they expect you to do in this game though. The game treats this as some kind of big reward, but not really. You're now just left at the hands of the game as it counts down to your demise. Escape or die. The ending changes depending on how long it took you to beat the game. Yeah, that's all you wanted to see. But at this point, I'm just kind of fed up. Anybody who's played this is fed up. Nobody wants to play this game ever again because of how terrible of a game this is. No. People claim this game is easier with the screw attack. But I don't even know where you find this thing. It also feels shoehorned in, as if they knew the game wasn't too hard and now they wanted to destroy the game's difficulty because people realized how hard it was. Music. Now I like music, but I don't like this game's music. There's like 3 good pieces of notes resembling music here and there. but the rest is just a bunch of pulses. Especially the science lab music. That's the worst one. No more please. The same complaints for music I have for sound effects. So much pinging, especially when you bomb these things. When I say these things, I mean the piranha things that you can't really kill ever. I put a lot of value into controls. Some of my favorite games have great controls. I often bring up Super Mario Sunshine when I'm talking about controls, because that's the best example I can think of. There's tons of ways you can move around. It feels very expressive and the player has to take into account everything around them. When I compare that to Metroid, it feels very restrictive in comparison, but I guess that's what happens when you have 20 years to learn from your mistakes. Samus really feels like she's jumping on the moon. It's more exemplified when you acquire the high jump ability. You're constantly getting hit by these annoying enemy types because there are barely any options to save yourself. If there are multiple enemies on screen, you're probably going to get knocked around like a tennis ball. You almost never want to fight these enemies because you can't escape. This is what will happen about 80% of the time when you're moving around though. Just enemies you want to get past because you're looking for either a specific item or more energy tank. It's good to know that the Metroidvania genre has improved upon this game. Now, the HD review. I kind of reviewed this on my own in the livestream version. I have this up on my second channel, I'll link it. I said at the end of the live stream that this game is bumped up to about a 5 out of 10. But why do I say that? This game includes a new map, a secret area for Bryn Star, improved bumbling mechanics and HD graphics. I do appreciate the bumbling mechanics being improved. I could not find the secret area for Bryn Star and I really appreciate the map. My first playthrough of Metroid 1 ended up taking about 2 weeks because I kept dying to different types of enemies. My second playthrough took about 8 hours, since I only had a rough idea of how to beat the game. The HD playthrough took about 3 hours and I live streamed everything. The map that got added to the game really helped, and I was able to backtrack through wherever I had been before, and then I was able to locate the bosses and beat the game. So yeah, that's my actual review on Metroid 1 game. Should I do Metroid 2? I might leave a poll.